Yeah, as we were shutting down.
Right, okay, wow.
I like that. I like that. Thank you.
Your
Wise words.
just
I love that.
That was sort of.
Breast cancer. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So, I don't know, like.
Robert? Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
What's up, Mike? Good to see you.
Well, I spoke your name yesterday. No, just saying.
I'm Tracy. You must be the runner. I read about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
I run every now and again. I try to fix it. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for doing it.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, no, I thought it works. We had a family lady this morning.
Yes, it is. So I was supposed to amend it. So last 2 weeks ago was my last.
She told me.
Yeah. So I'm missing. So coming back here, I haven't been
A week.
right. So it's just like
I really miss it.
right. No, and I love it. I love the office. It's just running. I'm trying to be an attorney for the county and all that.
That's my daughter.
Yeah, you told me people walk in your office and you didn't know what they were there for.
Sure,
It's like,
keep me on point.
Looking to help you.
so what are you doing next?
I'm at a private firm out in Brookhaven. It's called Harris Valley Management.
Okay.
So they do full circle story.
Okay, so let's take pictures
10 years ago, coming up this month. It'll be 10 years since I started practicing. I did some document review for this same firm.
Okay, great.
They had a different name, they gave a different name to their partners. Sure. So now full circle moment back to out of Brookhaven. They do really good.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, still,
I like that.
county doing things that
I like that. So,
jeopardize
accolades. Last one.
no gray areas.
Yeah.
That was the best one,
Grew up in the county.
the best one. Because the tech on that one
My whole
was
career.
Oh, perfect. So, my brother was a teacher when we were growing up.
I don't know
Now,
who
he
came up
does
with that.
internal investigations.
Every detail.
that's me.
So, yeah.
That was fantastic.
If you saw
Brilliant.
him.
You haven't met me yet.
Yeah.
No, you got that.
That's my career.
Maybe he's come to the school.
No, I know what you.
Lighting
I think there was some cowboys
Came across.
at the inside at one point. in
Oh,
time.
yeah,
Fantastic. There was no
I love Mr. Cowboy.
way you
So-
could jump.
So
Go out
we're
there.
talking
It
about
was just
The assistant.
everything was right
See?
there.
Yeah.
the father was
That's
at Chapel Hill Middle School. And then one of the sons, Billy, Billy is the older brother.
Really?
Really? Young brother,
Really?
not never playing the league baseball.
Yeah.
So that's my connection.
I know, I know. Mr. Cowboy was when I started.
I didn't
She
like
was
that.
a. No, I know. Yeah, now you're married. Miss Aaron.
Everyone doing just a little bit.
The teachers that maybe was younger than him, I think it's just the way that we
I saw Mrs. Smothers at a football game recently, and I was just like, immediately. That's
okay.
So, kid in high school. Appointed, he's now running for office, judge, school court judge, Dwight Lake. That's how I know. Same time. Amanda said she knows. Wonderful things, kid in high school. Flexibility.
Good.
Thank you for doing it.
Right.
That's your 62nd. So this is district.
Was
Oh, okay.
2017.
It's always in.
That was my son. I was just.
I like the other one better.
So, you know, how often do you visit? I don't even know, you know, just
Once they. Since
You're
to the. This was the
okay, so that those would have been the reasons why you see.
Students.
Yeah.
Not fully, because you have to.
Oh, wait, no, of course, you're right.
Originally sent this one.
And Westchester. Now, my understanding of the voting lines, many years ago, were just railroad.
Right.
And that is at least every census. The census that weighs this side of the trail.
Okay. Oh, now
There's a state law, the state law that says that you share and vote with this proportion.
Yeah.
Commissioners.
There's four. Yeah, there's, I did let some of them know since we got a time change, that if they ran a little late, their spot would be here. But I did bring it up.
This portion would be Yeah, yeah, so.
If we're doing that, we need to do that.
Yeah.
Not then.
Yeah.
Right.
Just going in. Is that correct?
Wait a minute.
So far.
That's people canceled. I don't know who. Yeah.
Okay, the two of you are formed. Is everyone else good?
Yes, people registered. But you're recording this, and it'll go live on our Facebook. We've gotten a lot more posts after the fact than we did.
Yeah, I saw the videos there. I'm just more fascinated.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just like, the first few days in the house, he's just reading stuff. That's what makes
Bill, where's the camera? Where should I look? Oh, right there. Okay.
Okay, so I'm Michelle.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Okay.
Michelle, good to see you.
Hi, I'm
Michelle.
Tracy Underwood.
Hey, good to see you, and I hear this is the man.
I think so.
It's the man.
Well, I just want to say hello.
She already knows she.
Of course, Michelle. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
That was great. Southwest.
Hey, Michelle. Very good to meet you. I'm Michelle. It's my friends here. I think we can sit there and just like give questions.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh.
I can't believe I missed it. Hey, Michelle.
Hi, I'm Jake. How are you?
Good to see you. Whereabouts do you live?
I think so. Drive.
Stu Mountain. Glad to see you here. Hey, Michelle. Yes, whereabouts? Campbell Park. Okay, all right. So we're back. Yeah. I will be honest. Yeah, I'm your, so the way the lines have been moved on, you're now part of District 3. Yeah, so this is the dog part of the city's district. You got it.
No, never.
Right place to get that. It's good.
I don't have a kid, so I'm doing it.
Well, yeah, you're good. Yeah. You need 20 minutes. Cross it, just say.
Hi, Audrey. See you again. I know Chicago.
I do a son of Amari.
Okay, great. Congratulations. Well, thank you. Yeah, you're good. Of course. You always have a, I'm very well known, so I always have popcorn. Got some seats tomorrow.
It's like a city council meeting or a board meeting where it's 60 seconds. Like,
You need your own? You need your own?
And she'll have a sign that says 30 seconds. And
Call me
then
anytime.
you'll see the stop sign.
Good day, bad day.
I think it's 90 minutes to. No, I was just pointing you out to her as our timekeeper.
Great.
I just heard
Yeah.
her name.
Wow.
So you'll be the person.
How you doing, man?
Yes.
They'll give you that housekeeping.
Yeah.
And where do you go to school?
Oh, is that right?
And that's where we send out the. If you were there?
This is far from where it's on North Deshaun. It's about 3. We're very close to
That part is fine. Yes, well, we'll see how it goes. It's my attendance right here. Audrey, you doing all right? Okay, all right. That's tired. Yeah, Nikki's excited. He had to go to the lodge.
It's also not super efficient. No, it's not. Because it's set that.
Come over and sleep.
Well, when I introduce you, okay, nice to meet you. Tamara Jones, Amari Crawford. Nice to meet you.
He's got extra vowel.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. You just need
Oh, is it misspelled? Yes.
It may be too late for this, but that's all right.
Oh,
Candidates, please take your seat.
Hey, what do you need us to do? Hey. You got it. You got it. I mean, you must be Greek.
no.
Yeah, you got it. Olympiadis is right.
Okay.
You got it. You got it.
I'm in Atlanta. I teach it.
At Queen's Point, I discovered that
You ever won?
This is both sides.
That's Tamara Jones. Okay. Can you generate? Yeah, I got you. Because at least I had a chance to talk to Audrey. Yeah. Nikki's up at the live.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for attending our forum number 6 in our Meet the Candidates series for this year. This is our nonpartisan municipal election forum featuring Decatur Atlanta School Board seats, sponsored by DeKalb County Democratic Committee. Please welcome our third Vice President of DeKalb Dems, Amy Swigert.
Actually, it's first vice chair of the DeKalb Democrats, but thank you, Steve, for the introduction. And I'm here to welcome everybody to our 6th and final municipal forum. We have been doing these forums all around the county because we believe in a simple notion that everyone should exercise their very fundamental and powerful right to vote in every single election. And if we encourage folks to vote, then we want them to be informed voters. So we have been working very hard, and this is our last forum, and it's a live forum. We're actually here live, streaming from downtown Decatur. So I'd like to welcome our in-person audience as well as our online audience who may be watching our live stream. So initially, this particular forum, we had planned to include municipal races for mayor and city council for Avondale Estates and Decatur. But because most of those candidates were incumbents and unchallenged, we decided to just simply focus on the school board elections. We've seen how important all levels of government are in recent years because of the pandemic. And we feel it's important to make sure everyone knows all the people that are running and that we make sure we have informed voters, as I said. So. With that, I'd like to welcome our moderator for the afternoon. Amari Crawford is a member of the Georgia House of Representatives, representing House District 84. Representative Crawford sits on the Budget and Fiscal Affairs Oversight, Intergovernmental Coordination, and Judiciary Committees. As a freshman state legislator, the Democratic Caucus appointed him Deputy Whip and a member of the Policy Committee. Representative Crawford was raised in DeKalb County. He's a proud product of DeKalb County schools. After graduating Southwest DeKalb High School, He attended Florida A&M University on a track and field scholarship and received his Bachelor of Science in Political Science and a Master of Public Administration. He earned his law degree and MBA from North Carolina Central University. Representative Crawford lives in Decatur, and he serves as Assistant County Attorney working for the citizens of DeKalb County alongside our elected officials and appointed officials. He's an active member of the 100 Black Men of DeKalb County. He was a member of the Leadership DeKalb Class of 2021 and 2022 New Leaders Council Fellow. He's an avid runner, cyclist, and adventurous traveler. He sounds like a busy guy. When not serving DeKalb County, you may spot him running with the Bulls in Spain. So let's welcome our very dynamic representative, Amari Crawford.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome.
Good afternoon.
We can do better than that. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome.
Good afternoon.
All right, thank you. We're here for a very important part of our democracy, and that's hearing from our candidates who are going to be doing some great work in serving our community as potential school board members. I am very appreciative that I'm able to stand before you today, so I'm going to go over what the school board members actually do, and then I'm going to go over the ground rules for our forum today, all right? A school board is a unit of local government that determines the policy, budget, leadership, and administration within a district's public schools. School boards are usually composed of anywhere from 3 to 15 elected members. School board members are usually unpaid volunteers who play a major role in public schools. They oversee a wide range of academic, legal, and financial issues, from approving curriculum to hiring the superintendent, adopting and overseeing the annual budget, and managing the collective bargaining process for employees of the district. Sounds like they have a lot of work to do, right?
Right.
In general, all school boards have 3 major responsibilities: developing the annual budget to run the school system, setting school policies, and hiring and evaluating the superintendent of that school district. School boards are also responsible for being a representative of their community, hearing all sides to every issue, and figuring out what works best for our students, because in the end, the students are the most important part of our school system. Can we all agree to that?
Yes.
All right, we are all here because we had teachers that cared for us, right?
That's right.
But our school board members are the ones that ensured that we had everything that we need in our classroom. So again, they play a very big role. We did ask everyone, other candidates to come, but these are the candidates that showed up, so give them a round of applause for being here. Okay, now these are the ground rules, all right? Each candidate will have 60 seconds to make an opening statement. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer our prepared questions. Each candidate will then have 60 seconds to make a closing statement. I'm going to ask the candidates, do not call out other candidates by name, but we want you to focus on the issues. In other words, let's keep it clean, okay? Keep the gloves on, all right? Okay, so I'm going to introduce the candidates that showed up today. I'm going to introduce you as you all are sitting in alphabetical order, and I'm going to ask that you make an opening statement. I will say this, I'm going to set my clock. If you are okay with this, I will say that, 10 seconds remaining, just so I can kind of wrap you up. Are we all agreeable to that? So it is unbiased. I want you to get your best information. Listen, I'm an attorney and a politician, so I know how it is to be talkative, all right? So I want you to be able to say whatever you want to, but within that time frame, and then we'll have questions later. Okay, so before I introduce, let me go ahead and set my stopwatch here. And I am going to ask Ms. Tracy Anderson to give us an opening statement. All right.
Hi, I'm Tracy Anderson, and you may have seen my Yard Signs Facebook page or website that identifies me as Tracy the teacher. This year marks my 27th year teaching and working in the classroom. My husband and I are both public school teachers who moved to Decatur in 2009 when our Beacon 8th grader was just an infant, because we wanted a walkable community, but we also wanted a school district we could trust. And in the decades that I've been in a classroom, I'm seeing financial and instructional decisions move farther away from the classroom that was cited that helped to support us. And I believe when that happens, our students get less. They get less time if the class size increases, especially if we're spending our students' money. They get less attention if they lose the class schedule lottery, so that one student is in a class of 15, but another student studying the same subject is in a class of 25. And they get less energy from teachers. I'm running for this board seat because I believe that City Schools of Decatur can do better, and I'm excited that we have a new superintendent who has a long track record in education. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And before I go to our next candidate, I'm going to point out, thank you very much. There's a sign that's going to be right in front of you. That way, if you kind of look up occasionally, you will see the 10 seconds and know how much longer you have. But thank you very much. You did an excellent job. Thank you very much, Ms. Anderson. Okay, next we're going to have James Herndon. And I'm sorry, let me back up. Tracy Anderson is a candidate for District 2. Post B, and James Herndon is an incumbent member of District 1. All right.
Thank you. Name's James Herndon. Lived in Decatur since '08. Lifetime educator. Spent several years in the classroom, several years at Emory. Ran for school board 5 years ago because I believe you leave things better than they were when you got them. My children are and will be members of the Decatur City Schools. I believe that there are no successful people without good teachers to help them get there. One of the unique things about success and successful people is every single one I've ever encountered in my life has a story about that teacher that made a difference. When I say that, everyone's little brain, I see a lot of eyes roll up and say, oh yeah, I remember Miss Burkhalter. I'm involved in the school board from that perspective, keeping the city schools of Decatur good, working towards being the best, and making sure that the kids that we serve have a voice in the best education they can.
Thank you. And let's give a round of applause. What you heard is from the City of Decatur Board of Education candidates. So let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, please. The City of Decatur. So next we're going to shift to the Atlanta Board of Education candidates. And we're going to start off with Mr. Alfred Shibby Brooks, candidate at large for seat 7.
Thank you. It's an honor to be with you all today. It's a little different to be outside of the bounds of the city of Atlanta having this debate. My name is Alfred Shibby Brooks. I am a high school teacher who teaches personal finance, government, and economics at Charles Drew High School in Clayton County. But I live in the Custom McDonough Geist in the city of Atlanta. I'm running because, as you will see and as you will look at our school board, we've not yet in 150 years had representation of an active classroom teacher on the Atlanta Public School Board. Until this year, it was not possible to happen. And so as I listen to some of the City of Decatur candidates, I'm a little bit lonely over here wishing we had more teachers looking to serve on the school board, and I am the beginning of said journey. I served as a legislative aide at the Working Families Caucus at the state capitol. I have a degree in public policy from the Andrew Young School of Public Policy. So I not only bring experience within the classroom, but I also bring a breadth of legislative experience at different levels of government in which I will be able to bring those experiences to get better outcomes for our kids. I look forward to talking to you all today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we're going to hear from Ms. Tamara Jones, incumbent member at large, seat 8.
Actually, I'm Tamara Jones, the current seat 7 at-large board member for the City of Atlanta, citywide seat. I was elected 2 years ago, and I've been hard at work ever since, working on the pressing issues of this school district. But currently, I serve on the policy committee, the board development committee, the Atlanta City Joint Committee for Education, and the Atlanta Beltline Affordable Housing Advisory Board. But first and foremost, I'm a mom of 3 children who have attended K through 12 in Atlanta Public Schools. And this is my 17th year as an APS parent. During those years, I was actively involved as a volunteer parent at the local school, cluster, and district levels on GO teams, PTA, PTO, cluster advisory teams, district level committees, and I've been under the hood of APS for a really long time. I ran because I got tired of not seeing the changes that were needed. By profession, I'm an architect and urban planner, graduated from Georgia Tech, lived here for 30 years. I truly love this work, and I'm committed to it and looking forward to be reelected to continue the work that we started.
Thank you. Next, we want to hear from Ms. Michelle Olympiadis, incumbent member District 3.
Okay, I think I got it on. I got the green light. That's on, right? Y'all can hear me. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be fussy, but just want to make sure y'all can hear. Good afternoon. I'm Michelle Olympiadis. I currently serve as the District 3 representative, which does encompass this half of the city. So it's from Brookwood Hill all the way over to East Atlanta. Sorry, I didn't mean to make a mess there. But from Brookwood Hills all the way over to East Atlanta. I have 3 children. My 2 boys recently graduated this past year out of APS. I still have a daughter who is in APS for a couple more years. She'll graduate in 2026. I hope to run again and be done by 2027. I will not seek another election after this one should I be successful. I've enjoyed serving on the board for the past 5.5 years and have done my best. I got the 10-second mark. I've done my best to serve the community and listen to what people have to say and advocate for what they believe in and what I think is necessary for us to move the school system. I got to stop. So thank you.
Thank you. And last, we're going to hear from Dr. Ken Zepp, candidate for District 3.
Thanks, Representative Crawford and Amy and Steve. Thank you for pulling this together. This is a service to the community. We do need informed board members because informed community, so we can get the system we deserve. My name is Ken Zepp. I am former superintendent of Fulton County Schools, and more importantly, I have 3 kids in the Atlanta public school system. And we can do more. We can have a system that meets more of the students' needs in our system. We could have every child be a reader. We could have a system where the resources end up at the schoolhouse instead of stuck in central office bureaucracy. And we can imagine a time when the superintendent doesn't change every year or 2. We're going to be hiring our 4th superintendent in 5 years. Our kids deserve more. That's a huge distraction to our system, huge distraction to our teachers. If we come together as a board, we can build the system that our kids need and our city deserves, but it has to start with a board that's focused on results and focused on doing what's best for kids at all levels. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give all of these candidates a round of applause. The reality is running for office is difficult. You all have the courage to run for, and some have held office, so thank you very much for your service. Thank you for stepping up. Thank you for serving and wanting to serve the community. And so again, guys, impressive panel here. I think that we're going to be in good hands moving forward, which is what's most important. So now we're going to go to some questions. And just again to reiterate, each candidate is going to have 90 seconds to answer the prepared questions that we have, okay? And once again, we're going to have, so we are unbiased, make sure that you are looking to see when your 10-second mark is coming, and so you can say what you have to within that allocated time, okay? The first question that I have is for Ms. Anderson. I'm going to go in the same order in which we introduced you all. The first question is, how will you collect feedback from the districts you represent for those who cannot attend school board meetings?
I like the model that the board member who represents the school where I work uses, and she has a monthly listening session. Obviously, in arranging that, I would have to make sure that it's at a time that's convenient, especially for working parents. But I think the other part of feedback that we really need to focus on is response to that feedback. As a teacher and as a parent, I find that there are lots of opportunities for people who want to share questions, concerns, ideas. At times it's almost survey overload, So that's great. But I also think that we, as teachers, as parents, want to know what the board is doing with the information that it's receiving. So, listening is respectful and listening is certainly necessary so we know what decisions to make, but communicating things in a way that tell people, we've heard what you're saying and we are doing these timely actions to act on that, I think is just as crucial. The second part of it, to the point of running, because I've never run for office before, is how much I'm learning about the Decatur voting district. So I would be trying to represent District 2, and if you look at that map, it would appear that I would be speaking on behalf of students at Oakhurst Elementary and Winona, but then when you look at the district map, we're going to discover that there might be Westchester or Claremont students. And so there's another mechanism that I think has to be put in place for the whole board, because if one board member is fielding questions from 15 Westchester parents, but another board member seems to be the Westchester representative, then we may not be getting all the feedback and answers we want. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I can repeat the question if you need, all right?
You're fine.
Okay.
You're fine.
The question is just how do you collect feedback? I want to push back on the notion that a school board meeting is even an appropriate place to collect feedback. Public comment is limited. It's 3 minutes. It's usually near the end of a full agenda day. If you are on board and you think that the school board meeting is the only place where you can collect feedback, you are not doing your job. The 3 things that we've been working on, at least through the year, and you can always get better, is adopting listening sessions as part of the regular school board calendar, making ourselves available to the public for feedback that is one-on-one. I think second is communicating, putting the information out there. The number one trope I hear from my fellow parents is, well, the school board didn't tell me that. I didn't hear that. I didn't know that. I've gotten this new challenge where I ask them to get their email up and they'll search their email and they've been told 5 times, but they didn't hear it. And so figuring out how we can not just say it, but be heard is something that we're already communicating about. And I think all school districts, all government groups have that problem in front of them. And third and foremost, and I think Candidate Anderson is right on, just being available to the people in the community outside of social media, where they know you're approachable, you're a member of the community, where they can come to you, whether they're a teacher, a student, a principal, or just an interested senior citizen who cares very much about our schools. So those are the 3 things that are an ongoing request of all of us.
Thank you. And next we are going to go to our Atlanta candidates, and I'm going to ask Mr. Alfred Shivy Brooks the same question, and I can repeat the question again if you need me to, or...
No, I think we got it.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
All right, ready? I think this is a really good question. For many, once you've gotten to the point that you're showing up at the school board, you probably feel like you're not heard, right? And the truth is that we have to abridge a multitude of methods for people to communicate. Now, I do have the benefit of, yes, having a large social media platform, which does allow for access to many to converse. Once a month, sometimes 3 times a month, I do something called the Teacher Talk Live, where we have thousands, tens upon thousands of educators from around the country, but specifically here in Atlanta, who come together to voice what we believe are best practices or maybe some of our frustrations and what we can do about it. This is the type of forum I think could open up an avenue for many to participate. They may not want to click on that Zoom, but surely they're probably on Instagram, or surely they're on Facebook or on YouTube. But then we also have to have those organic in-person town hall meetings and conversations as well. And I think that's one of the advantages I bring, is that throughout our city of Atlanta, I have very deep-rooted relationships at all levels, which will allow for parents and families and teachers and stakeholders to all feel like we can share space, feel heard, feel seen, and be respected and regarded. Right now, we need people who have real relationships, who are relatable, who many times look like the communities we serve in this city, to offer a sense of someone here is looking out for me because I know you come from where I come from. And that is what I bring to the table here in Atlanta, that teachers will be able to have a voice, parents will be able to have a voice, and communities will know that they have a community person at the table. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, if any candidate needs me to repeat the question, I will. Okay. Next, we're going to hear from Ms. Tamara Jones.
At-large seat 7 is a citywide seat. They're all my schools and all my kids. At-large board members engage currently in listening sessions several times a year in person in different parts of the city. We just had one recently in Southwest Atlanta. This year, we're adding more regional meetings for the rest of the board as well. One of the things that I've been working on in the board development committee is coming up with something that's more regular, more predictable, so people know how they can engage with the board members in person. And we're going to continue to refine that. But it's important for an at-large board member to understand what the needs and concerns are for all 9 of our clusters. So one of the channels that I've used is trying to attend all of the different cluster advisory team meetings. We call those CATs. The CATs could be a powerful tool for feedback if we use them better. I also attend community meetings that are held by the district reps so that I can hear directly from constituents, and then I bring this information back to my board colleagues. But it takes a multitude of venues and channels to be able to pull all the different parties across the city together, which is what's required from an at-large board member so that we can all be rowing in the same direction.
Thank you.
I think I got it turned on, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay, you can hear me, okay.
Next, Ms.
I see the
Michelle
green.
Olympiadis.
Yes, thank you.
Let's go.
As long as I see the green, I think I'm doing all right.
Yes.
As a regional board rep, I would like to say that with respect to my colleague, from a regional seat, you also have to respect what's going on across the district and pay attention to what's going on throughout the city of Atlanta. It's not just what's happening in the regional, it's not just happening in City Council 5 and 6. You have to pay attention to what's going on, and you have to be respectful of what's happening with the school district. What I will also say is we have a lot of work to do. I mean, honestly, we have a lot of work to do, and we have. And for many of us, even before we were on the school district, at least for me, before I was on the school board, we were paying attention to what was going on with reading and wanted to make sure that we're doing something impactful with reading. We still have a long way to go with that. I think we're finally picking up our heels and moving forward in something that will be impactful for children to learn how to read before 3rd grade, because we know that that's a critical step to graduate from high school. I've got you 10 seconds. And you know, with all that being said, there's still a tremendous amount of work to be done, and I would like to try to continue that work. It is very challenging. I got to stop. Okay, it's challenging with 9 board members. Thank you.
And next, same question for Dr. Ken Zeff.
Thanks, Dr. Crawford. Look, there's a trust gap in the city of Atlanta between the city and the school board. There just is. How do I know that? Because over every week since in the last 4 months, I've been knocking on doors. We've knocked on 1,900 doors throughout our region, talking to voters, talking to folks, and finding out what's on their mind. And the truth is, they don't feel connected. They don't understand why we keep cycling through superintendents. Why are my property tax bills going up 9.7%? Why is that happening? Why do I hear that my kids are learning how to read? Where's my voice? And I think that, as I mentioned before, it's not about public comment at the school board meeting. It's about a school board that cares deeply about the community input. So what do we do? What is the school board? How do we address that? We listen when we ask questions. We listen. We take the feedback. But the Go teams are the secret sauce here. The governance councils at each school is where parents, teachers, principals, community members come together, and that's where the work should happen. It shouldn't happen because people are in the boardroom wearing the same color shirt, or it shouldn't even happen on a call where there's 30 people. It should happen in each school, and it requires the board to say, you know what, we're going to push authority down to these governance councils. We're going to trust the people in the community to make decisions for their school. And we're going to do the hardest thing of all, we're going to actually put the resources there too. We're going to put our money where our mouth is, and we're going to invest deeply in our schools and our governance councils and give them the voice. Because by the time it comes to the school board, it's too late. It's too late, and it's not going to look like the community. The answer is pushing authority down to our governance councils and our schools.
Thank you. All right, so now we're going to go to our next question, and I think this is a perfect segue from some of the responses that you gave. The question is, what are the top concerns you've heard from teachers, and how would you address their concerns? Ms. Anderson?
Well, I am a teacher, but I'm also a curious person, and I listen to the teachers I work with, and I've also been listening to the teachers in Decatur. And I'm going to reduce it to time and money. There's just too much that teachers are being asked to do with too limited time. And I'm sorry, I said money, I meant help. And what I mean by this is take something like WIN that Decatur adopted this year. Any middle school parent or high school parent would be familiar with it. In theory, it sounds like a great program. But when I talked to a Decatur teacher during pre-planning, I learned that the experience that they were having is the same one that I've had for years, which is you're going to take a week's worth of training, or you're going to try to envision a year's worth of implementation and get that condensed to 2 hours as you're trying to figure out how to get your classroom ready, as you're trying to make sure your schedules are correct. That just doesn't work. And I looked at Decatur's board policies, and I'm really excited that Decatur has started adopting policies. But look at something like the board policy for professional learning opportunities that was passed in November 2022. It's great that our board recognizes that teachers need to professionally learn, but we also need to recognize that that implementation requires specific delineation of the time it takes for teachers to train. So this way parents and students are not going to be frustrated when they're asking teachers questions that they can't answer. And then with regard to help, I think there's a real problem we have in public education in general right now, in which there's lots of support, but those do not get those support jobs the same delineation that teachers do. And I'll expand on that later with my priorities. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Herndon.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the gap between how important teachers are to society and how much support they get in the form of financial support and all that. But to be honest with you, respect is where you feed into that. Both APS, DeKalb, and Decatur have given about a 15% raise to teachers since the pandemic overall, but they're still not feeling it, and there's still so far to go in terms of making that pay what it needs to be and telling teachers that they're valuable. I think help is a great way. We've moved to early release days in our system and making those intentional and training teachers on the things, because parents will demand improvements on reading, improvements on equity, improvements on the education gap, but we're not providing the resources for those teachers to learn those things, to bring them in the classroom. We just ask them to do it and assume that they're gonna be the wicked witch and move their wand and that stuff's gonna happen. We have to provide support. As a board member, those changes aren't easy. Finding the budget to increase stuff, it includes building relationships with people like Representative Crawford and working at the state level to get more support for teachers, for staff, to do the training, to get the resources they need so that it's the profession that it should be, that people can do it comfortably their whole lives.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Brooks, same question.
I just wish I could take y'all with us to all the debates, because I'm sitting here nodding, because only if you serve in a classroom do you authentically understand the things that teachers are talking about. It's one thing to visit a school when it's time to read to kindergartners. It's another thing to go to school every day because that's the work that you do. 3 things that I will point out are pay, climate, and investment. Currently in the city of Atlanta, HUD considers you to be low income if you make $57,000 or less. In the city of Atlanta, we start a teacher at $54,000. Our teachers are being hired into poverty, and that is not okay. Moreover, the climate within our schools is not conducive to really taking care of our teachers. Our teachers don't feel like there are warm environments, and with all the turnover we have with our principals, that causes even more turmoil for a teacher. And trust you, if anything will make a teacher leave, it's instability with your principals. And lastly, investment. We're not investing in our teachers' continued education. I would say that our paraprofessionals should be invested in so that they're getting their 4-year degree so that they can become certified teachers. Our teachers with bachelors should be invested in so that they can get their masters and they can improve their income level. And lastly, I would say no teacher in the city of Atlanta should be paid less than $65,000 a year because our teachers deserve to be able to afford to live in the neighborhoods that they serve in. And until we get serious about this, about making that a reality within the next 5 years, we're going to hear a whole bunch of lip service. And you will hear from one of my opponents who will say that she supports teachers. But if you voted against a budget that gives a raise to teachers, then all of the things that you're going to hear are simply fodder. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jones, same question.
Thank you. We're fortunate in APS that we do have board members, and we always have, who have been classroom teachers in APS. So that level of personal empathy is there. I fully support the increases we gave to school staff, within this budget. But the teachers and the school staff are also asking for more resources to flow into their schools. More money in their schools gives teachers the materials and the support they need to do their jobs well and, create a positive work environment. We didn't do enough of that in the budget. That's why I voted no. We need more money going to the schools to support them. What we don't have, though, is a formal way to hear from teachers. That is a problem. We have to fix our school governance boards, our GO teams that you've heard about, and our cluster advisory teams. They have teachers on those bodies, but they currently don't have any way to communicate with the board or with the administration. We have to fix that because that's not the way they were intended to be used. We are fortunate that we've been able to get some idea of what teachers want and need through exit surveys, but I will say, when they leave is not the best time to find out that they don't feel respected or that they feel like leadership is lacking, or that there are behavioral and discipline problems in their schools, or that they have to live too far away from the city so that their commute is too high. But we have to give them their own voice and a way to talk to us in real time, and that's what I'm focused on.
Thank you. Ms. Olympiadis, same question.
Michelle.
Michelle.
We got 2 other Miss Olympiadises in the city of Atlanta, maybe 3.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, Michelle's good,
Michelle.
if you don't mind.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So just to be clear, with Tamara and as budget chair, we've made it very clear with the administration that we would like schools to tell us what they want, because we're not hearing what they want. We've been giving them what we think they need, but what we're asking for this year is and with Dr. Battle, is for us to tell us what they want. It's not fair to have, y'all gonna look at me like I'm crazy, but $6 or $7 for arts for a school year per child is not fair. There's nothing fair about that. And when I say arts, that's orchestra, band, fine arts, I'm leaving stuff out, chorus, anything you can think about with respect to arts, $6 or $7 a child, that's not right. We have to do better. We have to give them more enrichment. And so what I've asked from this administration that we're currently working with, and I got you on the 10 seconds, is that you as a schoolhouse, tell us what it is that you need support with, and then let us try to figure it out, because it's much more important for us to support you than for us to have a full table at CLL. I think we can reduce what's going on downtown and make more instructive decisions with respect to schoolhouses to support children.
Thank you. Dr. Zeff, same question.
Thanks, and this is the critical question, right? Because there is no path to a great Atlanta public schools without a supported, well-resourced teaching corps. It just won't happen. I mean, everything else is we're just talking around the issue. So this is the central issue, and teachers are leaving because they're not treated as professionals. Because their central office directives that are rolling downhill, and they feel like they can't do the job. They had a sense of what the pay was going to be. We need to do better with pay. But if you look at the survey data, the number one reason 60% of teachers are leaving because of burnout, and 50% say they wouldn't recommend the career to their kids. So what's our future going to be if we don't get this right? It's not about Jeans Days. It's about authentic support of teachers, and we have to invest deeply. And how do we do that? The board has to decide. The board has to decide that we're going to push these resources down. It's been happening year over year. This last budget, 20% of the central office budget grew 20%. 20%. The best way to figure out what you think is going to happen in the future is look what happened in the past. We need to make a change. We need to decide once and for all that we are going to support our teachers. We are going to not issue a bunch of directives that we throw over the wall and say, hey, try and figure this out, and we're going to hold you accountable. And we have to get the superintendent hire right. Because when we keep cycling through leadership, that's just another bit of drama that winds up in the classroom because the folks in the school board decided they were going to change the council, or change the leader. If we can get this right, we can create a new positive dynamic in our schools. Atlanta Public Schools can be a destination choice for our teachers. We just have to create a place where they feel like they can be successful.
Thank you. And my next question is going to come again based upon your responses. I think you guys are spot on with a lot of your responses. The question that I have, because we all need to be able to help each other in government, I want to know, how will you work with your city and county governments on issues that impact your specific school districts? For instance, tax breaks for development, which impact the basis of taxes for school funding, and other issues that you guys brought up in your previous responses. Ms. Anderson, go ahead. So
in running for this seat, I've been doing a lot of research and learning a lot about Decatur. So in the same way that I, or one of my neighbors that's here, moved to this city in 2009 for the school district, what we found is our student population, I believe, is almost double. And I'm not sure that we've worked enough with the city. Now, again, I may not have all the background information, so that we've thought about how we're transporting, for example, all of the increased students and the parents who are driving their students to school in our wonderfully walkable community that still has some limitations in regard to how we move around is one. I'd also like to see a lot more in terms of partnerships with safety. I learned last year that the Decatur City Schools, of course, has a police officer and a safety department, but I think we also have a pretty unique situation in that we've got our city and our safety unit and our school district all within walking distance of each other. And then when it comes to working with the city in terms of something like taxes, I don't have all the answers. My husband and I were fortunate enough to move here when, I like to say, we got one of the last livable houses in Decatur. But I think, like Mr. Brooks cited with APS, if we don't figure out how to make Decatur affordable for people who would like to work here, of course we have to also make it inviting for them to be here, then I'm not sure how much an initiative would matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Herndon, same question.
Yeah, this is a great one, because when you run for school board, I think you're motivated by things to do with education, and it's a quick education for yourself to learn. There's only so much you have control over. So, City of Decatur, the number one complaint I get from parents is walkability, is crossing guards, is school bus related. The city has control over so much of that. And so if we don't have a working relationship with the commissioners, which we do, we meet monthly, we talk regularly about those issues, you're not going to get them fixed. Same thing going upwards. Mental health. As we're coming off of the pandemic, and each of these age groups, these kids who are going into third grade, who did kindergarten virtually, which still blows my mind, and this mental health gap, the state is grossly underfunding mental health in our city. We are like 49th or 50th in the country with that, and we can throw all of the money we want to in Decatur. That's not going to fix APS. It's not going to fix Bibb County. It's not going to fix Vidalia, Georgia. And so reaching up and having a relationship with the DeKalb delegation, who even then, once again, only has so much power and influence, but being able as a school board member, and this is my short version of this, to identify who has the power to change the things that are impacting our children and the relationships to get that change done, that's what a good school board member needs to do.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Brooks.
Thank you for the opportunity to answer this question. I can start with some of the things that I have done. Over the last 3 years, I've been lobbying with the state legislature here in Georgia to change the charter at the City of Atlanta to allow an active teacher outside of Atlanta Public Schools who lives in the City of Atlanta to be able to run. And I think when we talk about impacting our district, much to the advantage that you all have in allowing an active teacher to serve on the board, Atlanta finally gets the dignity for teachers to be able to not have their voices be projected by someone else, but actually have our voices be at the table as well. Another thing that I would say is that we have to also have relationships within our city. And if you take a look at my campaign website, which is brooks4FORAPS.com, you'll see that I'm endorsed by almost half of our city council. And this is something that you rarely see, especially when there is an incumbent in the seat currently. And I'm proud to say that today we announced that our campaign has been supported by Councilwoman Andrea Boone. Now, this is vital because there are things that happen within our city, and honestly, the thing where we need to be wrapping around our babies most is between the hours of 4 and 8 p.m. Because for many of our high school kids, our middle school kids, this is where we lose too many. And it's one of the things that I want to make sure I am intentional about as a school board member, which is making sure that we are taking care of our children once they leave our schools, because we're not doing enough in that area to give them additional enrichment, to provide them with what they need so that they can be successful when they come back to the classroom. So I think if you look at some of the experience that I've had working at the state level, working at the city level, working at the county level, we're able to get the job done at every level for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jones, same question.
Thank you. As I said before, I serve on the City of Atlanta Joint Committee for Education. So that is a formal body that has been created that has board members, city council members, and we've recently added 2 county commissioners, one from DeKalb and one from Fulton. And what that does is create a standing committee that meets regularly to work to create issue-specific subcommittees so that we can task them with coming up with ways to deal with a lot of the joint things that we see with our youth. Things like after-school activities, things like violence prevention, things like housing instability. But beyond that, we at APS have been working with the city when you talk about the tax breaks. So with the city and with local authorities in good faith, for some of our surplus properties to be used for such things as mixed income and mixed use redevelopments that have affordable housing, community services, and early education, so that any tax incentives that flows to a developer for those projects actually serves the public good. One of the possibilities we're talking about right now is housing for our teachers and other school support staff. With regard to the state funding, we do have a legislative liaison, fortunately, at APS, which helps us out a lot. But, it's also important to talk to, just the other day I got to meet State Superintendent Woods and talk to some legislators about fully funding the literacy initiative that they passed last year.
Okay,
Thank you.
You got to stop. Okay. I feel like I want to echo everything that you said. So yes, we have a tremendous possibility in with respect to the property that APS owns. We are one of the largest landowners in the city, and we need to do better by respecting the fact that blight is not a possibility, and it should not be. That we should find ways to encourage communities to have a vibrant opportunities with public property, and we need to do better by all of that. And there's a lot that we need to do with respect to that. And I will say that I have been a very strong proponent of that over the past 5 years. It was one of the major initiatives that I asked the board to address as a new board member when I came on board. And it's taken us some time, and I regret that it's taken time, but sometimes that's the way government works. And I do hope finally that we are moving in the right direction. We've identified 8 surplus properties where we are asking folks from the community to come and step up and help us figure out what to do. Got it? 10 seconds. To help us step up and help us figure out what to do with those properties so that we can engage the community better and use the properties for what they're well worth. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Zeff, same question.
Yeah, we need to work together. I mean, there's no path to a great city of Atlanta without great Atlanta public schools. And I think that if you look at any of the issues that we have as a city, education is the prime number. If We got issues with crime, we got issues with housing, we got issues with healthcare, we got issues with mobility. If we can get education right, then we can make great progress. So housing, we have to figure out how housing can the city can help us with housing so we can have limit student mobility, we gotta work on safety. But what you need to look for is the experience. So I've worked at the federal level, I've worked for the U.S. Secretary of Education, I've worked at the state level, I've worked at the district level. I have a history of collaboration and bringing folks together to solve problems. When I come before you in 4 years and get asked these questions, I will be able to talk to you about what we've been able to do, how we've been able to build a better school system, a more durable relationship with the city, because we can't keep cycling through these challenges. One thing I do want to bring up here is, and sometimes part of these relationships are telling the truth. So things like tax breaks to developers, we have given those away too freely. We've given away our kids' money for development that could happen on its own without taking money from our kids. And so part of a durable relationship with the city and with our investor community is to say, you know what? If this project is so great, it should pencil out on its own. You don't need to come to the school and take our tax allocation district dollars to help fund your project. Atlantic Station would happen on its own. It doesn't need the Atlanta Public Schools money.
Thank you. Thank you for those answers. And I will say this, the state does take some responsibility in doing all that we can. It's very difficult down there, but I will say that we were able to Decatur, the DeKalb delegation, to pass some homestead tax exemptions for Decatur. So we're getting something done down there, all right? My last question I'm going to have for you is, what are your priorities as a board member, and how do you think that you can accomplish them? I'm going to start with Ms. Anderson.
They seem pretty simple, but 1, it's students and learning, 2, it's teachers, and 3, it's evaluation. And I think the learning part is something that we assume we understand, but I'm not sure anyone who's worked in a classroom post-COVID with a Chromebook, with a cell phone, I think students, high schoolers, the most recent research, 240 notifications a day, fully understands what the classroom looks like. And so the first thing I want to see is some description of what we think learning looks like, because I suspect if we asked everyone in this room how many hours your child or the student in your school district is spending on a screen, we would get a different answer. Because what I've learned in the school district I teach for, as well as in Decatur, no one knows. So I want to start with that to begin with. Do we know what learning looks like before we go to these purported measurements? With regard to teachers, I think we've all agreed that our students need teachers. There is no learning without teachers. So I'm going to move to the evaluation, because in 2015, the state of Georgia changed some of the setup of Georgia school districts. And so what we now have are heaps of administrators and support staff. They may never have been evaluated by their teachers. When I first started teaching, we would go into the cafeteria or into the library, and we would get to evaluate our administrators. What better feedback would you want if you were managing a school? And somehow in the last 7 years, we've gotten rid of that. And so it could be that while we're trying to promote teacher help, we also need to make sure that the leaders that are working with us are actually equipped to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Herndon, same question.
Yeah, equity gap, putting money into the classroom, communicating better. Equity gap, the data nationally, statewide, should bring tears to anyone's eyes what test scores and end of grades look like and how much of an impact the color of your skin is on the outcome in the classroom. And there's no wand for that, but we need to try stuff. We need to document what we're doing. We need to put our money where our mouth is. We need to work on overcoming that. Teachers need respect. The city of Atlanta writ large needs to be a beacon for what good teachers want, where to come, to retire, to grow, because Ms. Anderson is absolutely correct. I was married before I had a cell phone, and my daughter could type before she got to first grade. Those things do not line up. I'm not in the classroom anymore. I have no idea what it's like to upload a Google Doc to check your English homework. It doesn't make sense to me. But we're asking our teachers to do it every single day. And they need to be compensated, they need to be trained, they need to be taken care of. And the third is communications. This is not a City of Decatur problem. This is a government problem. This is a classroom problem. We are struggling with how to communicate with each other and get messages out there. There are fantastic things happening, and there are problems, and people don't know about either. And just continuing to work on that as a school board member, as a school system, those are easily my 3 priorities.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks?
Thank you. Literacy, hiring a quality superintendent, and investment in our teachers. For me, literacy is a comprehensive approach, and especially when we talk about literacy among our children who have some of the most egregious deficits, which tend to be children who look like me and who look like mine. With that means we have to address some generational issues, which means we cannot only focus on the child, we also have to focus on adult literacy, because if that baby cannot go home to get help, then how are we helping that baby? And so one of the things that I believe firmly is that, yes, we have our children in front of screens too often. And one of the negative consequences of the COVID pandemic is that many schools have moved away from using physical text. If you've noticed, many of your kids don't come home with textbooks anymore. And I believe that we have to get textbooks back in front of children, because studies show that when children physically touch text, the comprehension and reading abilities, they grow enormously. And when we say to ourselves, why has reading been going down over the past few years? Well, our kids spent 1.5 years with no books at home. When I ask my own students, what books do you have in your house? You know what they tell me? The Bible. It may be the only text they have in their home, and that has a lot to do with the outcomes we're getting. Secondly, with the superintendent, we have to make sure that that superintendent is a high-quality person. We have to make sure that that is a person who is actually served in a classroom and not some Fortune 500 or 100 person coming in. And we need to invest in our teachers by making sure no teacher makes less than $65,000 a year, so that the city of Atlanta is the most competitive place to be a teacher in the metro Atlanta area. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jones?
So we're hearing a lot of common themes here. Literacy definitely is one of my top priorities. And serving on the policy committee, we're introducing for first read a board policy around literacy that would follow from the state's policy that has been given to us, so that we can have the kind of materials and instructional methods that have been proven to teach children how to read. But refocusing our budget and our attention on our core business is going to be critical. Things like attendance, things like transparency and communication and engagement and nutrition and transportation. To do that, we have to have, it can't all be about personal relationships and individual egos. It has to be creating systems that outlive individual elected officials. Things like the Joint Committee, things like the GO teams, like the cluster advisory teams. We have to have those structures and processes in place so that when one person leaves, the business doesn't fall apart. So if when one person leaves your organization and everything falls apart, you have not built a good system. So that's a big focus of mine. One of the most immediate challenges we have right now is in Atlanta Public Schools is chronic absenteeism. So over a third of our students have been chronically absent, and this is 21 to 22 school year. A lot of the metro areas around us have bounced back after the pandemic. We have not. We have to change our attendance policy to act like a fact-finding tool to find out what are the barriers to attendance for each individual child and how do we meet them. Thank you.
Michelle?
Okay, I'm going to sound a little redundant here, but literacy, and I'm sure we've got literacy over here too. Literacy is incredibly important and something that I've been a very strong advocate for many years. I'm a huge Orton Gillingham advocate, and I'm very excited that finally, over the past 2 years, we have adopted foundations for our K-3 students to have their teachers learn about Orton Gillingham and the phonetic and phonemic process to teach children how to read. Because once you teach children how to read, they're going to be successful in everything that they do, I promise. And I know this because my eldest is special needs, and while it took us up until 8th grade to get on track, he's on track. I mean, he's Mr. NPR is what I call him. He tells me everything that's going on every day. He gets up, he tells me what's going on in the world. It's because he can read. And it's just very, very important. Another one I will agree with is attendance. We have an issue with attendance. We have an issue with mobility. We need to keep better track of where our kids are going and where they've been and try to make sure that we're following them, especially if they're staying in APS. And that's the trick. So if they're in APS and they've gone from school to school, we need to know and make sure that we're tracking them to make sure that we can support them in what they're lacking and not starting over again. And then the third thing, there's a lot of third things. Big on transportation, big on nutrition. The majority of our children.
Miss Michelle, I'm sorry, we're going to have to.
I got the stop. I got the stop.
Yes.
Oh, I missed the stop. I apologize.
No problem at all.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Seth, same question.
Yeah, so literacy, but a comprehensive literacy strategy. We need to get our superintendent hire right. We need to push resources out to the classroom. We need a more comprehensive strategy around literacy. It is not about training teachers in Orton Gillingham for a couple years. We've been trying that. We need to go much deeper than that. We need to fund instructional coaches. We need to change double block kids who are reading. Kids who are behind in reading need more time in reading. We just need to embrace that. And by just saying, oh, we're going to train you a little bit more. And by the way, if we are going to train them, like we work with Marietta City Schools at my nonprofit, they pay teachers $5,000 to complete certification in literacy. This is a crisis. 9% of kids of color in third grade are reading at grade level. Said another way, 91% are not. We need to talk about that at every board meeting, and this is when we need to bring our best thinking and double down and say this is what's important to our system, and budgets are moral documents. We're going to invest deeply in it because that's what we believe. Now we need to get the superintendent hire right, because if we keep buffeting from one year after another to new leadership, we're not going to see the change that we need. And finally, the central office budget grew 20% last year. $40 million got stuck in the central office. That should be in our classrooms. That should be in our schools. You hear teachers reaching into their pocket to pay for supplies. It doesn't need to be that way. The taxpayer has been extraordinarily generous to Atlanta Public Schools. We need to steward those resources responsibly for the benefit of our kids.
Thank you. Now this wraps up the questions that we have for our panel. However, we are going to allow, because of our time, 3 questions from the audience. And the rules, once that question is asked, each person from the panel will be able to have 60 seconds to respond should they want to respond to the question being asked, okay?
Are we going in the order?
Yes, we'll continue to go in the order. Thank you.
Hey, I don't need a microphone. I was a teacher. I've heard everybody talk about literacy, and I think that's absolutely true. I have a nonprofit bookmobile. And the reason I have a nonprofit bookmobile is because in the summertime, school libraries close. Kids lose 2 to 3 months a summer because they do not have books at home. They don't. If you're in 6th grade and you've lost 2 to 3 months, by the time you're in 6th grade, you've lost 2 years. So while I love everybody's focus on literacy, my question is, why are the libraries closed during the year? Why are we funding the wrong end of the problem? We're funding the problem of, hey, let's support kids once there's a problem. Let's train, just Orton Gillingham. I was a reading tutor. If a kid has Orton Gillingham during the school year and then they go home and they don't read for 2 or 3 months, I don't care how much Orton Gillingham you give them. They're not going to catch up. And so where's the breakdown here? Are you guys the people to ask that question? Is there somebody else? Because to me, it's like peanut butter and jelly, right? You don't have books at home. You got libraries at schools that are closed during the summertime, so what do they have? They have books. Well, what's the problem? That's all I got. And I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on that.
Ms. Anderson?
I don't know if I can answer specifically to a library being closed, but what I have learned in my 27 years of teaching is that it is complicated. I don't mean the answer to your question, and I don't know when it's by design and when it's just happened. But so if you look at a funding mechanism, for example, you're going to find that the state is going to fund a certain number of teachers and a certain number of positions in a school building. And then you might have federal funds that are coming from a different pot of money. And then you might have Title I funds, and you might have grants. And then I think, unfortunately, we just keep doing what we know. And so, again, I can't answer to the library, but I think that we have a national crisis in education. We all know that. And I think the problem is that we don't have enough people starting with the students and what they need and then building from that. And perhaps if we did that, you might find that a library would be open more often or over the summer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a interesting policy question. The county and the city who fund libraries, those need to be solidified, those need to be advertised to children. Local schools should continue to work on book fairs and having them at the end of the year where kids who don't have access to books are given them. I know at my daughter's school, it's a big push at the end of the year to have every child go home with 5 books that they wouldn't have. I think another policy proposal would love to see us discuss, checking a set of books out over the summer, particularly if you're going to be returning to the same school. Why couldn't you check out 4 or 5? God forbid a child lose a book and we have to buy a new one to replace it. They're supposed to be read. It's a great question. Raises a lot of stuff I don't immediately have the answer, but I think it's one of those that's closer to having a good relationship with your county and your other people, because it's a multifaceted answer to a major problem.
Thank you for the question, because it echoes something that I talked about, which is that our babies genuinely do not have books at home. And especially if you come from an economically disadvantaged family where literacy is not the thing that's coveted the most generationally. Mind you, there's a historical perspective about literacy, especially in the Black community, that has to be talked about and no one talks about, which is that at one time it was illegal for people who look like me to know how to read in the first place. And there are generational impacts from this fact. And it is something that needs to stop being ignored and stop acting like it is not a part of the conversation, because it is. And I'm sorry, but if you're not from our community, you don't understand authentically what those impacts look like and feel like. Now, the other thing is that we do have the benefit in Fulton County of having our Fulton County libraries be free and available to APS babies. But I think you point out a good point, which is that our schools are not just physical tenements for learning, but our schools are actually hubs for our community where our kids get security for housing, they get security for healthcare, they get security for mental health care, and they get security for their access to books. And that's something that we have to make sure is eased for every baby. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jones, if you'd like to respond.
Yeah, thank you for that question, and I can tell your passion for literacy from books, and I really appreciate your efforts. We just recently had a presentation from our Director of Media Services to go over some of the efforts that they're trying to do to reach out, make sure that people do have access to books. And, the partnership with Fulton County Library System is a great one. The ClassPass, they have that over the summer. It's not well advertised enough, in my opinion. They also talk about working with our partners, our local partners, and any nonprofits to try to get books into the hands of kids on a regular basis. We've got a current program now with vending machines that are free for kids that have books in them, that they can take home. They don't have to bring them back. So that's a great one. It's going to take a citywide effort if we're really going to be serious about literacy. And it's going to take all of us pulling together, all of these different partners, to make sure that we have a culture in the city of reading, of literacy, and that's from, birth till, old age. So, thank you.
Old age. Okay.
Michelle, if you have a response.
Still in old age. If I may share with you, as a board, we did decide with respect to our budget that media consultants, I'm not going to get the title right, but the specialists, thank you, that we would have a media specialist in every one of our schools moving forward. It used to be an option, and now we've asked that it be required because we say that this is something that's necessary, to be quite frank, and it needs to be part of the day. It needs to be part of what the kids go through. Just go to the media center, check out a book. It doesn't matter if it's a chapter book or a simple book or whatever. Grab a book, read it, bring it back. But we have been very intentional in making sure that reading is back up where we want to go. And yes, I'm still a huge fan of Orton Gillingham. It's a simple way to learn how to read. And like I said, it took my special needs son a long time to figure out how to read, but he can read.
Ms. Michelle, thank you. Dr. Zepp, same question.
Yeah, the libraries are an underutilized resource. I mean, they could be a huge asset to our community. I know this because I'm on the board of the Atlanta Fulton Library Foundation, and I'm actually the treasurer, and we're trying to raise more money for our library system because there's no greater equity play than libraries. We have the structures already built. They're full of books. There can be huge community resources. We're not leveraging them as much as we can. It is, as others mentioned, it's a county issue, but there's an opportunity to do more. But really, I think what's behind your question is what happens over the summer. The school district has an answer. Summer school, right? We have the resources. We get $23,500 per kid. We do extend summer school in very select cases. If there's an opportunity for more innovative programming that the school wants to provide that makes sense for a kid, we can combat that learning loss. But again, we gotta push resources out to the school so it makes sense, so kids don't feel like it's another thing they have to do. And then B, we have to make it fun. We have to make it interesting. We have to pay teachers more to do it. So there's a world of opportunity here. We have the resources to do it. We just have to get focused on it. And I think working with our library partners is one way, but we can also look in the mirror and do some of this ourselves.
Thank you. Because of time, we have one more question that we're going to allow. Ma'am, I saw your hand raised. Would you like to ask a question?
I just wanted to piggyback on what you all were saying about literacy. I'm a retired school librarian, media specialist, teacher librarian. We got all kind of titles. And I've worked in DeKalb County for 29 years. This whole state is not serious about libraries. So you can't be serious about literacy, okay? You just stated that Atlanta Public just established getting a media specialist back in the schools at every school, okay? That should have never happened. We should have always had a librarian in the school if you're serious about literacy. Also, you need to also think one pattern doesn't fit all. In the high schools, you're gonna need two. And then the person that's over your media centers, your person is a technology person. Your person is not even a librarian. So they don't know what is required for reading and what skills are required. That's what we need to get back. We need to get back to the basics. If you're serious about literacy, you have to be serious about school libraries. Thank you.
Thank you. So in the interest of time, I'm going to, let's give our panel a round of applause. Let's give them Thank you all for coming out here today. I want to be just honest that this is perhaps one of the most impressive panels that I have moderated and have witnessed. You guys gave some great answers, great responses. It's obvious that you really care, so thank you for stepping up. Thank you for wanting to serve, and it sounds like, again, no matter what happens, our students are going to be prepared and our students are going to be cared for, so thank you. But before we close, I want to make sure that each of you has an opportunity to give a closing statement. Each candidate is going to have 60 seconds to give their closing statement. As an attorney, your closing statement is probably perhaps one of the most important things that you're going to leave your jury, or in this case, your audience with, okay? So 60 seconds for a closing statement. Ms. Anderson, your time.
I want to run for, or rather serve in this board capacity, because I think we're at a time when we could use this change. And people move to Decatur for the schools, and I think people are not feeling like they're getting everything that they can. And the reality is that every single person who spoke talked about what teachers need. And we actually need a teacher perspective. And when I say that, I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier. Someone who knows what it's like to be working in a classroom today. If we don't get this right, I just don't know what else we're going to keep calling learning. So I just appreciate anyone listening, and I love the fact that everyone is now recognizing we need teachers. Decatur's teacher retention rate was 84% last year. That's lower than DeKalb's and lower than the state's, and I know we can do better, and I look forward to trying to make that happen.
Thank you. Mr. Herndon?
It's weird to talk when you're an unchallenged incumbent, but my biggest point is we need more people who are fired up for public service in this city and in this state. And when we just hired a new superintendent, so best of luck to APS. And I am motivated by her presence and the excitement for the next 4 years in Decatur. That some of these things, I love Tracy's perspective and former classroom teacher, and we have another former classroom teacher on our board. But really just being invigorated. I want to thank you all for showing up on a Saturday to listen to school board members talk. We need more of that. And reach out and communicate with your community about that political activism, that engagement. It's so incredibly important.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks?
Thank you so much. Thank you all for the opportunity just to share with you all and to actually be able to share a panel with other teachers who are serving in this capacity, giving Atlanta an opportunity to see what it would look like for us too to have teachers at the table in our school board. Currently, we have a 4% opportunity for a child born in poverty to ever escape poverty. And I think we all know that for our children, especially children in the Black community, one of the only ways to be able to uplift their families is through education. And if our schools are continuing to fail them, if they are continuing to make sure that 91% of third grade Black boys are now reading on a grade level, if we continue to have a Fulton County jail that stays overcrowded, if we continue to ignore the things needed, where we have 60% of every single APS dollar going towards central office and only 40% going towards the classrooms, we get what we're looking for. I think now is the time where we need to be focusing on the mental health of our students. Then you probably wouldn't vote for an incumbent who voted against additional mental health services. We know that our teachers need better pay, so you probably wouldn't vote for an incumbent who voted against teacher increases. Now is the time for us to recenter our children, our teachers, and I give us that opportunity to do that. My name is Alfred Shivy Brooks, and I look forward to having your vote and your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jones?
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to be here today. I really appreciate it. It's nice to get to know you guys a little bit. At this juncture in Atlanta Public Schools, we're hiring a new superintendent, and to be able to support that person and go into our second year of progress monitoring under our student outcomes focused governance model, it's critical that we have leadership on board that has experience and background knowledge of the challenges and the assets that are unique to Atlanta Public Schools and what this job is and what it isn't. I have that experience. I have the training, I have the knowledge, and I know this district, this particular district deeply, and I'm 100% committed to it. This position is not my political stepping stone. I already have my career. I serve to give, I like that word, service, public service. I serve to give back to the school system and the city that helped raise my children. And I want to galvanize the people over this entire city to come together and support APS to make it a national model for urban education.
Thank you. Ms. Michelle?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having us today. It's really been lovely. And it's been great to have this discussion with everyone. My closing remarks are, I want this one last term. I still have a child in APS. I think it's very important as a school board member to have a child in the system so that you can actually live what you're learning, so to speak, or live what you're doing. This is my last one. She graduates in 2026. And as a matter of fact, Ken's daughter who's here and my son are both freshmen at Tech. It's just a lot of really good experiences in the Midtown community, and I would like to continue to do the work within District 3. And I got the 10-second hand. I would just like to continue the work for one more round and do the best that I can to serve the community.
Thank you. Dr. Zeph.
Thank you, Rev. Crawford, and special thanks to our timekeeper. This has not been an easy job, and so thank you for whatever you're being paid. Ask for more, 10%, whatever I can do. Whatever I can do. But then thank you all for being here. This is what we need in our school system to build the school system that we need. We need everybody's engagement. I know Jima. She was on my team at Fulton County. She's terrific. You guys have done well, and she will do great for you. So thanks to our educator friends for being here too. We're at a unique moment in Atlanta Public Schools. We have this chance to get the superintendent hire right and transform the system. We can build a system where literacy matters, where resources are flowing to our schools, and where kids are proud to say Atlanta Public Schools. When I come back to you in 4 years and we have this conversation, we will talk about how the district is on a path to put every kid to have an opportunity to achieve their greatness. We can build a system that our kids deserve and our city so desperately needs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Vote November 7th.
Thank you. Remember to vote. And also, before I step down, please give a round of applause to not only our panelists, but the DeKalb Dems for putting on this wonderful program. Thank you very much for allowing me to moderate, and now I will step away. Thank you to our panelists.
Thank you, Representative Crawford. You did a fabulous job moderating this panel, and I very much appreciate you taking time to do that. I want to thank all of our candidates. Education is just foundational to our state. I think everybody here is well aware, and I so appreciate all of your passion for the issue. I very much appreciate all the teachers that are running to serve in this capacity, and all the teachers that are in the room today. My mother was a public school teacher in New York City schools, so I know how hard you work. I know how you pour your heart and soul into such a challenging environment. So thank you all for being here. This, again, is our last municipal forum. If you've missed any of our forums or you want information about what is happening in your city, you can go to our website at DeKalbDems.com and click on the Make a Plan to Vote tab, and you'll see all the information about all the city elections, all the candidates, all of the video replays of all of our municipal forums. And while you're there, if you're interested, you can get involved with the DeKalb Democrats by clicking on Take Action and volunteer for our upcoming events. I also want to thank our entire team who has put on this forum and all of our other forums. They are not paid. They are volunteers, and they do this out of their passion for public service and for voting. And we're just very, very grateful for all of the volunteers that came together to put on these forums. And I'm going to bring our events chair, Steve Parker, up to make some specific appreciation for everyone who worked on these events.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's been such a pleasure to put on these forums. We did 5 that were virtual, covering 10 municipalities, and conclude with this one today. There were over 30 of these unpaid volunteers that helped us, and I just need to recognize them very briefly. Our production team, myself, Larry, and Brandy. Question writers Kieran Davenport, Susan McWethy, Ann Abramowitz, and Lauren Keating. We had over 15 technical people that managed the virtual aspects. Paula Anderson, Jessica Parker, Leona Peary, Gareth Lacono, Elaine DeSimone, Jeffrey Burdett, Sandra Rice, Beth Healy, Amy Farrow, Denise Patterson, Delois Bill, Brian Morris, Tom Steeman, Steve Strasburg, Bill Gundry, Julia Moss, and Dr. Paula Tillman. And our moderators included Shavonda Miles, John Montez Dioka, Bridgman Boulder, Gabrielle Rogers, Ken Royal, Dr. Ladina Bolton, Caitlin Brewster, Jade Gibbs, Dr. Mike Greenwald, Amy Swaggart, and Representative Crawford. Thank you to all of these people to make these so successful. To our online audience and those in the room today, we appreciate you being here. It's been a pleasure to put these out to the community. We encourage you to vote and make an informed decision based on what you've learned at these forums. Thank you all and have a great afternoon.